And Don Hewitt back with the Cage, the Dean of the Edwards School of Business at the University of Saskatchewan. Keith Willoughby joins us. And Keith, we have two things in common. We both like the business of sport, or studying the business of sport, and we both like analytics. And we're covered in both areas of analytics. Number one, we're covered with the league and the teams with your computer model analytics, and then the league helps us with their PFF, the analytics on each individual player. So you can't ask for more than that. But it's interesting, I was just reading the other day about the general manager of the Carolina Hurricanes. He's a non-hockey guy, Eric Tulsky. He's a scientist and a PhD in chemistry, other things like that. And he just started writing a hockey blog on analytics, and the rest is history. The Hurricanes, he is the general manager. Eric Tulsky makes the Final Four in the NHL. They lose to Florida. Well, everybody was losing to Florida. Now, you've traveled, you've gone to conferences on analytics and whatnot, which are very interesting, and you've been in the States. Is Tulsky the ultimate test case? In other words, a non-hockey guy over a hockey guy is a GM of an NHL team. In other words, if he does well, will you see more of this? Or if he falters, it won't go too well? What do you think of Eric Tulsky that way?
Excellent question, Professor. Two things. Number one, I think should he fail in this venture, I don't think it'll have a dramatic impact on sort of the growth of analytics in sports. You think back to the book Moneyball, Billy Beane, Oakland A's, the movie with Brad Pitt. So we've seen an acceleration in this field for probably about 20 years. But I think the key thing from the hockey perspective is that when you apply analytics in professional sports, hockey to me is the hidden gem. Because unlike baseball, where things happen at very well-defined points, there's a pitch, there's a swing, there's a ball, there's a strike, there's an out. In football, there are possessions. In basketball, there are possessions. But hockey, by its very nature, is the most fluid of all the professional sports that we have in North America, where the puck is constantly changing possession. It's going back and forth. So if you have an individual who can dial into analytics and uncover those hidden gems, those key secrets in hockey, to me, that would really provide an incredible platform for the growth of analytics across the landscape. Because to me, hockey has always been that sport that, just by its very nature, it's hard to really apply the in-depth analytical lenses that we often see in baseball and other sports.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking with Brendan McGuire earlier. Jeremy O'Day, hires Corey Mace with a gut feel. And I guess there's always going to be a combination in reality, is there not? I mean, there is something to be said for a gut feel, say, on a hockey player or on a football player, and use the analytics. So would that be correct, do you think?
I think so. Again, I love analytics. I teach it in university. I do research on it at sort of that PhD type level. But to me, analytics is there has an enabler of success. It doesn't replace human decision making. For whatever reason, Tom Brady was the 199th selection in the 6th round of the NFL draft. He fell like no other player has fallen. But maybe there was just a gut feel that the Patriots had when they selected him. He was somebody, obviously, who they molded into a quarterback that gave them, 15 years, almost 20 years of incredible success.
Right. I guess analytics can't measure heart, or can it? I mean, that's the one thing.
Exactly. You think, and you've seen it here with what I'd say undersized athletes. Think of Western wrestler. He wasn't 6'4". Hockey players like Theo Fleury, and we've had other players who might have been undersized, but they were always willing to do everything and anything they could to make sure their team was successful. And sometimes, again, those things are hard to measure. That's why, to me, analytics is a platform for evaluation. It allows you to compare situations, to understand trends and tendencies, but it doesn't replace the human at the core of decision making.
Well, you can, when you look at the PFF in the CFL that the CFL uses, you can sure see it on the field after you've read what these players are doing with their analytics, and you go, yeah, that makes sense, like the two defensive ends in this last game for the Rough Riders. They did both so well in PFF, and and it showed up on the field. So it's an interesting mix. There's no doubt about it. Well, the Riders, let's go to your computer models for this upcoming week. They, have some tough opponents in their next 6 games. I believe the opponents are 18-9. And you've got the computer projecting the Riders to go just 6-5 down the stretch because of that, end up 12-6 and second in the West. So the computer, I suppose it's because perhaps they had a close game with Edmonton. The computer's bringing that into play to say that they're only going to have a almost just slightly better than a 500 record the rest of the season.
Exactly. And again, I don't want Rider Nation to turn on me. I'm not a traitor to the green and white. I am a season ticket holder. I go to the football games. I bleed green. I bleed white, and I rejoice when they win, and I'm sad when they lose.
Yes,
but I think if you look at it analytically right now, you've got a situation where the computer model that I've developed, its primary metric is margin of victory. And let's face it, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, other than the home game against BC, the wins have all been by 7 points or less. Again, Ottawa, first game of the year by 5, then Hamilton by 5, Toronto, Mario Alford returns the kick with 9 seconds left in the game for a 7-point victory. I will say the road game in BC was not as close as the 6-point margin would indicate, but then the computer, it just simply looks at the final story. It doesn't see what actually happened during the game. Mm-hmm. And the game against Edmonton, where the Riders had a 17-point lead as the fourth quarter began, Edmonton scores 2 touchdowns, and the Riders win by 3. So that's why the computer doesn't particularly like the Saskatchewan Roughriders. It's also the fact that going into the next 6 games, the Riders have Winnipeg twice, Montreal twice, Calgary, and Hamilton, which I would say are, again, even though Winnipeg is 3-3 and Kolaros might be hurt long term, let's face it, they've gone to 5 straight Grey Cups, so they know what they're doing throughout the season. So again, it's a bit of a gauntlet right now for the Riders. The computer model, because the margins have been so close, doesn't really like going forward for the Riders to maintain this torrid pace. It sees us plateauing, again, finishing second to Calgary in the West this season.
Yeah, and Calgary, I guess for the same reasons, the computer really likes Calgary. Still a 49% probability of the Stampeders winning the Grey Cup, according to your model.
Yeah, the Calgary, again, they stubbed their toe against Ottawa in the monsoon game back in July. They lost to Montreal, but they have beaten some stronger opposition. They beat Winnipeg twice, and they beat them handily.
Right.
They beat Saskatchewan in the smoke game handily by 14 points. So Calgary has been able to put together those margins of victory against stronger opponents. That's why the computer really, really likes them. It also likes Hamilton because Hamilton's won 5 in a row. So I think earlier this season, a lot of folks in Rider Nation were thinking the August 16th game against Hamilton was a free space, the bingo card, because we defeated Hamilton in Hamilton earlier this season in June. But Bo is playing like Calgary Bo right now. And the combination of him and Kenny Lawler, Tim White, you're seeing some strong play from Hamilton. So by no means will that be a cakewalk for the green and white.
No, I mean, the computer has Hamilton with a 26% chance of winning the Grey Cup. And even though the computer can't really factor in injuries, the computer has had a tremendous season, Keith. I mean, you've got, you're right, more than, 10-5? What were you saying? Like 5, the computer's is hot, despite it all.
Exactly. I am so risk averse that I never use this for any sports wagering. But the computer has put together some good weeks over the past while. Right now, sitting 10-5. It doesn't like Saskatchewan and Montreal. It's looking at Montreal like a 76% favorite in that game. But it is what it is. The computer has done really well. Even last week, obviously, it got the Saskatchewan Edmonton game correct. It whiffed on Calgary Montreal, but it predicted Hamilton's thrilling victory over BC in Vancouver, and then Toronto. it predicted them to beat Winnipeg, which they did.
And Toronto at 2-5, are they not ranked ahead of Saskatchewan at 6-1 because of all the factors that you've mentioned, which is a lot of people would jump up and down about?
Yeah, I worry for the thousands of members of Rider Nation that are listening here, including Saskatchewan Rough Rider executives. Please do not cancel my season tickets. For whatever reason, the computer thinks that Toronto at 2-5 is a stronger team than Saskatchewan at 6-1. And again, it's a case because the computer is looking at a single lens, and that's margin of victory. Toronto coming fresh off a 14-point victory at home over Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan again eking out many of its 5 of its 6 wins have been again by closer margins. So again, I love analytics, but that's where I would sort of give the computer a bit of a kick in the hard drive, so to speak, because I think a logical fan would note that the Riders are, I know they win close games, but they win the games and never make an excuse for victory. Don't make an excuse for winning games, because Saskatchewan, for whatever reason, whether it's Mario Alford's kick return, East Edmonton controlling the last minute and a half of the clock, Joe Couch has the seeing eye punt, goes out of bounds at the 5-yard line.
Tremendous.
So the Riders make key plays at key opportunities. And to me, that's the recipe for a winning team. Well,
one final thing, the computer will have its work cut out for it this weekend, because computer has Calgary over Ottawa, 64.6% probability, Winnipeg over Toronto, only 50.2% probability, but now Calgary without Vernon Adams Jr. and Winnipeg without Zach Claros. It'll be interesting to see how the computer gets out of this weekend.
It is. And again, that's where the computer, it's looking in the rearview mirror. It sees the previous game, but it doesn't know who's playing. But just for me, Calgary could play John Huffnagel as quarterback, a former Stampeder quarterback. I think they'll beat Ottawa. Winnipeg could bring out Dieter Brock or Don Jonas. And I think, they're going to, O'Shea is not going to lose 2 consecutive games to the Argos. So again, even though Collaros and VA aren't playing, the computer loves Calgary, loves Winnipeg, and so do I.
Well, Don Jonas, there's a name from the past. Who'll ever forget Don Jonas? He was good for a while. Thanks a lot, Keith. We really appreciate you joining the Sports Cage. Sports Cage will continue in just a moment.